Mourners bowed their heads, the air heavy with grief as a tiny coffin was lowered into place. But before the final prayer could be spoken, the family's German shepherd lunged forward, barking wildly. At first, people thought it was madness, until the coffin was opened, and the truth left everyone speechless. The churchyard was cloaked in silence, broken only by the distant rustle of leaves swaying in the wind. Black-clad mourners gathered in heavy clusters, their faces etched with grief, their whispers muted by the weight of sorrow. At the center stood a small white coffin, its size far too cruel. A heartbreaking reminder of a life cut short before it had truly begun. The baby's parents sat at the front, their hands trembling as they clutched one another for strength. The mother's eyes were swollen from endless nights of tears, while the father's jaw was tight, as though holding back a storm threatening to break. Around them, friends and family bowed their heads, mourning not only the loss but the injustice of it all. Every candle flicker inside the chapel, every sob that broke through the silence, only deepened the pain. The service began in hushed tones, the priest's voice carrying solemnly over the crowd. All eyes turned toward the small coffin, yet none noticed the restless German shepherd lying nearby, watching with unusual intensity at the edge of the gathering. The family's German shepherd sat rigid, its eyes locked on the small coffin. Normally calm and obedient, the dog shifted uneasily, ears twitching at every word of the priest. Its chest rumbled with a low growl, so faint it blended with the sigh of the wind. Some mourners glanced back, frowning at the restless animal. "It's just grieving too," someone whispered, brushing off the unease as shared sorrow. But those closest could see there was something different. The dog's gaze never wavered, sharp and unblinking, as though it sensed what others could not. When the mother reached for a handkerchief, the shepherd whined softly, stepping forward until the leash pulled tight. Its body trembled with restrained urgency. To most, it seemed like devotion, a loyal companion mourning alongside its family. Yet in the tension of its stance lingered something far deeper, an instinct fighting to be heard. The priest's voice droned softly, each word laced with sorrow, when a sharp bark split the silence. Heads turned instantly. The German shepherd lunged against its leash, claws scraping the ground as it strained toward the coffin. Gasps rippled through the mourners, the calm service shattering into chaos. The father gripped the leash with both hands, his face contorted in shock. "Rex, stop," he pleaded, but the dog's strength was relentless. It barked furiously, teeth bared, body thrashing as if something inside the coffin demanded its attention. The once solemn gathering erupted into nervous whispers, fear mingling with confusion. Some mourners recoiled, clutching one another. Others rushed forward, trying to calm the animal. Yet no one could deny the desperation in its cries. This wasn't random aggression. This was insistence. Urgent, wild, unyielding. The mother covered her mouth, tears spilling anew, her gaze darting between the coffin and the frantic shepherd. What could possibly drive their loyal companion into such madness at a moment like this? The quiet reverence of the funeral unraveled into chaos. Guests stumbled from their seats, some shouting for the dog to be removed, others frozen in disbelief. The priest stepped back, clutching his book tightly as the shepherd's snarls echoed off the gravestones. What had begun as grief now trembled on the edge of hysteria. Two officers rushed forward, trying to help the father restrain the animal. Yet the dog's strength was unmatched, muscles straining, teeth snapping inches from the polished wood of the coffin. Its claws scraped furiously, leaving marks across the surface as mourners cried out in horror. "Get him away!" Someone screamed. Another whispered, trembling, "It's a bad omen." But the shepherd ignored every command, every hand pulling at its collar. Its eyes were wide, burning with desperation, its barks carrying the weight of warning rather than rage. The mother collapsed to her knees, torn between fear and confusion, clutching her chest. Somewhere deep inside, she sensed it too. This wasn't madness. The dog wasn't trying to harm. It was trying to tell them something. The father's arms trembled as he fought to hold the leash, but the shepherd's strength was unrelenting. Finally, the priest raised his hand, his voice quivering yet resolute. "Wait, something is wrong." His words froze the crowd, silence pressing heavy against the air. All eyes turned to the small coffin. Two pallbearers hesitated, their hands hovering just above the polished lid. "This isn't right," one murmured, his face pale. Still, guided by the priest's nod, they slowly reached for the handles. The mother's sobs filled the air, her body shaking as relatives tried to steady her. The shepherd's barking grew frantic, echoing like thunder as the first hinge creaked. The mourners leaned forward, breath caught in their throats. The lid lifted inch by inch, each sound of which straining stretching their dread. The shepherd lunged again, whining now, no longer fierce but urgent, as though begging them to hurry. When the coffin finally opened, a collective gasp tore through the crowd. What lay inside was not the stillness they expected, but something that would shatter their grief and replace it with raw, unforgettable shock. Inside the coffin, wrapped loosely in soft white cloth, the baby's chest rose and fell, faintly but undeniably. For a moment, no one moved. The world seemed to stop as disbelief rippled through the crowd. The child wasn't gone. The child was breathing. A nurse among the mourners rushed forward, her trembling hands reaching for the tiny body. "Dear God, this baby's alive," she cried, her voice breaking. Gasps turned into shouts, tears into stunned silence. The mother screamed and collapsed forward, her sobs transforming into cries of hope. The shepherd whimpered now, pressing its paws against the open coffin, tail wagging wildly. It had never been madness. It had been a desperate plea to save the life no one realized still flickered. As paramedics were called, and the baby was lifted carefully into waiting arms. The truth struck like lightning. Without the dog's relentless fight, this funeral would have become a tragedy beyond repair. The baby was rushed from the churchyard into an ambulance, paramedics working frantically as the siren wailed into the distance. The crowd stood frozen, some still weeping, others whispering in disbelief. A funeral had turned into a rescue, and the town was left trembling at the narrow escape from tragedy. Authorities quickly arrived, their questions sharp and urgent. How could a child be declared dead when life still pulsed faintly within? Medical records were pulled, and the doctor responsible for signing the death certificate was placed under immediate scrutiny. Whispers spread of negligence, perhaps exhaustion, perhaps incompetence, but no explanation seemed large enough to cover such a mistake. The family's grief had shifted into fragile hope, yet their anger burned quietly beneath the relief. Relatives demanded answers, their voices trembling with outrage and fear. Had the German shepherd not intervened, the truth might never have been discovered. Within hours, the story spread beyond the town, news stations circling like hawks. But amid the storm of questions and blame, one truth shone brightest. The loyalty of a dog had uncovered what human eyes had missed, and in doing so, saved a life. Days later, the baby lay safe in a hospital crib, monitors beeping steadily as color returned to fragile cheeks. The family stood close, their tears no longer of grief, but of gratitude. At their side sat the German shepherd, eyes gentle, tail thumping softly against the floor. The mother knelt, pressing her hand against the dog's head, her voice breaking. "You saved my child." The father's eyes glistened as he added, "You're more than family. You're our angel." News of the miracle spread far and wide. But to the family, no headline mattered more than the truth they already knew. In their darkest hour, loyalty had barked louder than death, and it had given life back.